Hi, I'm Hannah Holden and we're here at Leeds Golf Centre to test out the new ShotScope V2. So the ShotScope V2 is a GPS watch, but it also has a tracking system in it so it can track all your stats. So we're going to head out on the course and meet Dan and Jamie and have a go and see what results we get.
So my expectation would have been that off the tee would have been something like 60 to 65%, and I would have expected probably a little bit less for greens in reg. And then whenever I've counted my own numbers up, then my putts always seem to come somewhere in the low, even tending towards mid-30s.
So my predictions for my stats would probably be 70% fairways hit with my driver and 3-wood, because I like to flip between the two. With my greens in regulation, I don't really think that I'll be looking for anything more than 55%, all the way through the bag from short irons to long irons. I think fairly average. And with my putting, I'd like to think that I can quite often be under 30 putts, so around 28, 29 putts per round. I'd be confident to back my prediction with that.
So my initial predictions before using the device would be that I'd hit about just over 70% of fairways. I'm generally quite accurate with my driver. I sometimes hit a 3-wood instead if I think that's going to be a more accurate club. So it'll be interesting to see which of those is actually more accurate. Looking at greens in regulation, probably just over 50%, and then putts, I'd say I probably have around 30 putts around on average.
So I think there is an investment in terms of your time if you're going to use a device like this. It is very much worth watching the very helpful videos that ShotScope provide, because it's quite frustrating, I think, to think you're going to collect all these stats and it turns out that you haven't set it up properly or you don't know what you're supposed to do with it. You have to learn both how the watch works and then how the dashboard works back on the computer if you're going to get the most out of it.
When I first opened the box, I was a little bit overwhelmed. Obviously, you had your tags, the watch looked quite big, and I personally hate looking through literature on how to set up a device, but I quickly saw that they have help videos within the setup. Really easy then just to crack on and set up all your clubs. It's actually very easy.
When I initially opened the box, I thought the watch was quite big. I was wondering if it was going to be quite bulky on my wrist and if it was going to put me off when I was playing. But actually I found, like, once I had the device on, it was really easy to use. Looking at the tags and things like that, it was really easy to set up, just put them straight into the clubs. There was videos online to show you how to use it, and I just found that the setup was quite simple.
So the first time I played in it, I have to say that I was concerned that it would be off-putting. As soon as I started playing golf, it didn't bother me in the slightest, and I didn't notice it. So I think what the stats have shown to me is that actually I don't hit quite as many fairways as I thought. So actually my stats are probably more in the mid-50s rather than the low 60s, and the same would be true of my greens in reg. And actually I putt better than I give myself credit for. So my putting's coming out at actually just under 30 on the 9 rounds I've played so far, which is better than I would expect.
After using the ShotScope for my first few rounds, I quickly found that my driving was as I predicted, so it was around 66 to 68% of fairways hit, and I actually needed to give myself a bit more credit for my greens in regulation. So although I thought throughout my bag I was fairly average from say 9-iron up to 4-iron, I was actually a bit better than I thought and came out at about 62%, so only 7% more, but it was still a nice reading. And it gave me a bit more confidence when I'm actually playing. And then with my putting, I was fairly confident that I'd be under 30, and it actually came out at 28. So I was happy to back up what I thought, but then especially with my irons, using the device has actually given me a lot more confidence when playing and using, say, my 9-iron up to 4-iron.
Some of my predictions were quite accurate. Overall, I was having 29.4 putts on average. Looking into greens in regulations, I was actually hitting slightly more than I thought. Came in at 63% across the bag. Obviously, the more rounds you put in, the more accurate this become, because if you have quite a long club like a 3-wood, the chances are you're going to miss the green. So if you only have a small sample of rounds, that could skew the data. So just make sure that you've got enough rounds in before you start analysing the data, I would say is quite important. Then going on to driving and off the tee, I actually found that I was more accurate with my driver than any other club. So sometimes when it's a tight fairway or there's danger that I want to miss, I pull out 3-wood, and the data showed me that I shouldn't actually really be doing that. I think from now on I should be pulling driver out on a lot more holes.
So I've been thinking for absolutely years that I really wanted to commit to tracking some stats. The first few rounds were a bit frustrating because you're still trying to learn how the device works, and I've found as I've gone on that you get much more used to using the watch, tapping it it when you finish your putting, and you quite quickly get in the habit of it. And I think that the dashboard is, to me, the best thing about it. There is so much information out there that you can get on your game. And obviously the longer you play, the more accurate those numbers will become, and the less susceptible to to one bad shot skewing the result. I also personally really enjoy getting the medals. So the first time you play, you get loads, and that makes you feel really special. And then from then on, I've managed to get a couple more every time I've played, and I'm quite intrigued now as to which ones are coming next.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea to have a play around on the app and navigate around the dashboard. So I noticed on a few of the holes that my shots weren't quite in the right place. So I'd basically, what had happened, had taken a practice swing in the rough and then moved over my ball and taken the shot. But it's really easy. All you have to do is just drag your shot from where you thought you took it over from actually where you took it. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be. It's not as overwhelming as you think, and anyone can use it.
Generally, I found it really easy to use the device. When you're out on the course, there's not actually really that much you have to do. Literally, you just pull the club out you want, the tag's already on there, you hit your shots, and it tracks where you've hit it from. The only really thing you have to do is to press on the device and show it where the pin is. I found it really easy to do that. I left the ball in the hole, pressed the button on the watch, and then picked the ball out. So it was one of those things that was just a trigger to remind me to do it.
I think the trickiest thing is getting into that habit of, for me anyway, of tapping it after I've finished putting. So there's loads of holes where I'll have finished putting and I'll be halfway down the next and I'll think, oh no, I forgot to press the button. Now that's fine because you can go in afterwards, but it does just mean that you're spending quite a lot of time after you've finished playing on your computer to get the data right. And obviously if you've used it properly on the way round, then hopefully there's only the odd shot that it hasn't quite picked up. And then it's a much quicker process and much more satisfying, because you don't want to be plugging in the data, you want to be looking at the results.
So Dan, Jamie and I have been using this device for quite a few weeks now, and I think we'd agree that the best thing about it is the dashboard. When you go in and log in onto your computer or onto the app, there's a whole host of different things to look at. Graphs, charts, showing you different statistics across the board, whether it's from driving, putting or approach shots. One of the really interesting things I like is the scatter charts, where it shows where each ball's finished, such as on the fairway or on the green. And it also gives you a percentage of different areas you've missed. So if you've missed short right or long left, which is really important when you're trying to improve things such as your approaches into the green, looking at if there's a common place you're missing and if that's something linked directly to your technique. One thing to have in mind is that sometimes you'll try and hit it in a place such as the semi-rough that might give you a better angle into the green, so therefore you've missed a fairway, but you've hit it where you've intended to hit it. So that is something to just take in mind when you're looking at the stats. The fairway isn't necessarily always the best place to be. There's some par fives on my course where if I lay up back in the fairway behind bunkers, I can't reach. If I hit it in the left semi-rough, I can reach in two. So that's going to make my fairway stats look a bit worse than what they actually are, because really I'm hitting it where I intended to. So it's always important to take those factors into account when you're looking at the numbers. Overall, I've really enjoyed using this device. I do keep stats before, but I've always used it in a system where you just input the data yourself. So it's not always as accurate because there's always biased. You're not necessarily sure if your putt's 20 foot or 22 foot unless you've specifically paced each shot out. So it's really interesting to look at stuff like that. I enjoyed the feature where you could see how long the putts were that you've holed on each hole, and extra details like that you wouldn't necessarily get from just collecting the data yourself. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions for me, Dan or Jamie, feel free to put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you again soon.